one of the things I thought was a really useful articulation on the panel session was this articulation about everyday AI. I really like that as a kind of concept, that things like Copilot, for example, or OpenAI's ChatGPT kind of being classified as these everyday AI tools. I like that definition. I think that it probably hides the fact that a lot of people using those tools aren't really getting the support that they need to be able to know how to embed this into their daily lives, or to be able to drive the value from it that their organization would like them to be able to. And, I think that there's probably a responsibility there for organizations to provide more leadership, guidance, and maybe clearer instruction for people on how to use these tools, what to do with them. I think, unfortunately, AI, generative AI, Copilot, these tools kind of feel a bit like maybe they're magic. Unfortunately, they aren't magic. And alongside every other technology project that I've seen in the last 20 years, AI initiatives need change management. They need adoption. They need training. They need clear guidance, communication. And I think people need to be brought along on the journey a bit, because I think we're kind of in that sort of awkward time now where if you haven't explored the tool set and haven't found the use cases that work for you, it's maybe a bit awkward now to say, I don't get it or I don't understand it. So, organizations, I think, are going to have to assume that there are people that don't get it, but aren't necessarily comfortable in saying that they don't get it. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Fresh Perspectives. I am David Bowman, the Product Director for Fresh.
I'm Jarbas, the Senior Product Manager for Fresh. Great to be here. We got there. Second run. But David, so my background looks different today.
Yes.
And that's because I'm not in Germany. I'm here in London in our office, and this is how nice it looks, by the way, for people who haven't visited us yet. By the way, if you're a client, would also be nice to welcome you one of those days in the office.
And we want to say hello to our friends at i4U today.
Oh, yes. Peter, Bo, Iris, the team is doing an amazing job helping us with different clients in the Netherlands. And they also have quite nice events coming in the upcoming months. We're looking forward to that.
Yes. Hello, team i4U.
But not just them, right? Also internally here, our team has been doing a very good job, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah. The team have just put the finishing touches to the latest release of Fresh, which has been very exciting. So thank you, Maddie, Rafa, and all of the team that are working on the product.
Oh, yeah. Excellent release once again.
Yes. And, I guess in line with the topic for today, we're doing this kind of AI revisited in SharePoint Intranets. The release is sort of representative of a lot of the conversations that we've been having lately. Two key features in that release of the product, one of which on newsletters and sending emails to people and making sure that we're able to use that as a channel, SharePoint content going out in newsletters and tracking and identifying who's clicking links and consuming content from that as a channel. And the second feature, which is some enhancements that we've made to intranet search, bringing more AI features into Fresh Intranet. And I guess that's been it feels like a bit of a conflict. On one hand, to be talking about sending more emails, and on the other hand, be talking about AI integrations in search.
It does. Well, we talked about that in the previous episode. It's as a vendor, we need to go both ways, right? We need, in terms of addressing the newsletters, the requirements that people have now, basic requirements is still, but also looking ahead, where is the market going? And in this case, of course, the training is all around AI and making sure that we're also supporting our clients in that direction.
Yeah, and definitely, I think that it's representative of the conflict that people that are working in this field of digital employee experience are, confronting this huge range of challenges now of, how do I connect my employees to the content that we've got in our organization, strategy, news, updates, people, policies, documents, all of the content that lives, typically in an intranet. But, those challenges all the way through to how do I encourage people to be using AI to be more efficient, get more information, get answers to questions rather than just be reading more documents. So, this world, the number of things that you've got to be building awareness of grows on a daily basis at the moment.
Well, since we are touching where kind of the release items here, so one of the things that we did was like the enhancement of the profile panel. So making that really like appealing, nice design, nice look and feel, adding org chart to that. So I had the chance like to show that to someone yesterday, and they were like, "Wow!" So it's like design was really like well done there.
And this has partly been driven by Delve being retired last year. So for anyone not aware, there was an app called Delve, which was had a lot of fanfare when it was launched. It unfortunately became maybe it was rebadged as Snoop by a lot of customers that we were working with, because it allowed you to keep tabs on content that maybe you weren't necessarily aware existed across the organization. I think at the time we thought this was a really cool product and introduced lots of things through the Microsoft Graph, but has now been retired. So we have created effectively a replacement for what was the user profile page. So look, I think on the topic for today of AI Revisited, then we were just going to do a quick sort of status update on the state of play with SharePoint Intranets and AI, because this is a changing field. There's some new things that have been launched since we did the last episode on this topic. So just to kind of cover this off, Copilot alive and well in increasing number of organizations. And becoming more and more embedded in the applications that people are using on a daily basis. I think that's sort of fair assessment of where we are with Copilot.
It is. Like, and well, we'll kind of going to the next area of the topics we want to address. So it's kind of the Copilot in SharePoint, and that becoming reality. I think that's special and very positive to see like now Copilot available in SharePoint. So you can like now hit that Copilot icon on the kind of header section of SharePoint, and you have access like to this SharePoint agent directly then in the SharePoint context, where you can then ask for questions related to your data within a SharePoint site.
And just so it's really clear for anybody listening on this, that this allows you to create an agent in SharePoint, which is typically aimed at creating an agent for a document, for a list library, for the site. What is not currently available yet is the functionality a lot of people will have seen advertised from Microsoft of using the SharePoint Copilot to create pages. So what's available is the SharePoint agents, but not yet for being able to create pages directly in SharePoint.
That's right. So you can create one or more agents that will then integrate with your data or access your data on your behalf. I think that's always important to keep in mind when you're talking about Copilot. So Copilot does never access data that you are not allowed to access yourself. So if you would go like and look for documents, if you don't have access to that, then Copilot doesn't have that access either. And as you mentioned, so you can then create multiple agents that can then, let's say, access data in one library, in multiple libraries within a site, multiple folders. So it becomes an easy way, to retrieve information and from multiple documents. And I think a nice aspect is that you can also share or include this agent or those agents in Teams discussions. So you can have like an expert participate in those discussions. I think, let's say if you're having an RFP discussion, for example.
A request for proposal.
Request for proposal, yes.
Or a contract, a discussion about a contract.
Yeah.
A legal document, for example.
And then you have then like that expert like helping you.
So one of the participants in that conversation in Teams could be this agent that's been created, which has a good understanding of this contract or contracts that are in a library. And you can be asking this thing questions whilst in a Teams chat with a number of other people.
Yeah, exactly.
So, some really powerful, useful functionality there, making documents, content, information stored in SharePoint kind of come alive in conversations and discussions.
So, and that's like looking towards like what SharePoint provides, right? And Microsoft provides a Copilot, and like in Fresh, we have also like extended functionalities in Fresh Mind, which is kind of how we kind of the label that we gave like to describe all of the AI capabilities that we have within the product. And as you mentioned previously, sorry, go.
Yeah. So the search enhancements, so we have agents that we're building ourselves that sit inside of the Fresh product. And, I'm sure other vendors will be creating these AI integrations as well. So the kind of state of play for AI and SharePoint intranets, Copilot, the SharePoint Copilot, third-party integrations, and these new SharePoint agents that are available.
Right. And the future doesn't end there, right? So we have kind of the AI integrations directly in the context of the Intranet for the people who want to use it there. And the next step is then looking towards Copilot, isn't it? Like you post something very interesting on LinkedIn, David. Maybe you can help us there.
Yeah, so this is really this ongoing hypothesis that we've got about whether Copilot and Copilot agents are an existential threat for the intranet. And really the challenge that we've set ourselves here is being able to create something that doesn't require a web browser, but allows people to be able to interact, have conversations with, and interact with content that's in the intranet. And Jarbas, you and I have been at events over the last couple of weeks showcasing this feature in particular to people, gathering feedback, gathering reactions. And I think from conversations that we've been having that it sounds like we've had very similar responses.
We did. So that's very right. So I joined the Microsoft AI Tour in London, which took place yesterday. So that's the reason why I'm still here. And David, you had the opportunity to join the AI Horizons event. How was that? What is that event about? Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Sure. So we one of our partners is a company called Ragan Communications, and they organize internal comms orientated events or comms orientated events in the US, various cities across the US. And this was a new event for them, which has really been created out of the interest that they've seen from their audience in AI. So the AI Horizons event is a kind of new event for them, focused on internal comms, external comms, marketing, and the impact that AI is having in that area. So not a technical event particularly, primarily aimed at communications marketing professionals that are trying to upskill and learn about what's happening in this in this developing field. Based in Miami, so it was great to get away from the cold weather last week. Been nice to come back to the UK to a bit of sunshine, not quite as warm as was in Miami. And we were a sponsor of that event, right? So we had a little booth there, talking about some of our AI integrations, and running we were participating in a panel session.
Right. Oh, that's really good news. So, and you weren't alone there, right? So, you were joined by a partner of ours.
Yes. So we were there with a partner of ours based in the US called Clarinet Solutions, and we were there talking to a US audience about intranet, SharePoint, employee engagement, on this theme of how AI is transforming this space.
So, the focus of the event was about AI. So, what was your impression when it comes to AI? So where are people when it comes to AI? So do they share the same reality that we share? So I think we are very aware of the possibilities.
Yeah, so I think from the conversations that I was having at that event, both with people that were coming to the booth, conversations we were having on the panel session, discussions that I was having with other vendors while we were there, is I think really we've got kind of two groups of people forming in this space. People that are actively using AI tend to be more kind of technical people, maybe could be classified as the early adopters crew that are making use of AI, finding ways of using AI. And the second group of people that maybe AI still doesn't make a huge amount of sense for them. Maybe they've been experimenting with it, but not necessarily clear on the value that it could add for them, the role that it might play in their kind of daily working lives. One of the things I thought was a really useful articulation on the panel session was this articulation about everyday AI, right? And I really like that as a kind of concept, that things like Copilot, for example, or OpenAI's ChatGPT kind of being classified as these everyday AI tools. And whilst I like that definition, I think that it probably hides the fact that a lot of people using those tools aren't really getting the support that they need to be able to know how to embed this into their daily lives, or to be able to drive the value from it that that their organization would like them to be able to. And I think that there's probably a responsibility there for organizations to provide more leadership, guidance and maybe clearer instruction for people on how to use these tools, what to do with them. I think unfortunately AI, generative AI, Copilot, these tools kind of feel a bit like, maybe they're magic. Unfortunately, they aren't magic. And alongside every other technology project that I've seen in the last 20 years, AI initiatives need change management. They need adoption. They need training. They need clear guidance, communication. And I think people need to be brought along on the journey a bit, because I think we're kind of in that sort of awkward time now where if you haven't explored the tool set and haven't found the use cases that work for you, it's maybe a bit awkward now to say, I don't get it or I don't understand it. So, organizations, I think, are going to have to assume that there are people that don't get it, but aren't necessarily comfortable in saying that they don't get it.
Right. Well, I was at the event, as I mentioned previously. So I had a discussion with a CIO who was telling me, like, we bought 50 license of Copilot, so a large organization, and they are piloting that now. And what he was saying, like, well, I don't have time, or we don't have time, like, to focus on adoption ourselves. So we need support with that. So like that the people can really like gain the most out of Copilot, which goes beyond just like the simple prompts. But really understand like what are the scenarios where we need support with, and that can like be, of course, like meeting notes is one of the common things, and benefits that people can recognize very quickly and getting answers around that. But there are, of course, other scenarios where people can also take more advantage of the benefits that Copilot can provide.
Yeah, I think we were talking about this with Manish a couple of episodes ago, and we were talking about the more complex the outcome that you're trying to create, the more complex the prompt needs to be, and formulating that complex prompt, right, using that GCSE framework or other frameworks that are available. Unless you are taking the time to explain to people the benefits of having these frameworks and helping people understand how to craft these more complex prompts, people aren't going to find this themselves. This is a complicated technology that's going to need a little bit more support for people to pick it up.
It takes time, and it's good like to ask for support, like look at maybe via a consultancy company who is focusing on that, as we do here, for example, with Advania. And
well, I think that in the first instance, recognizing that if your AI initiative is maybe not producing the benefits that you were anticipating, or you're not seeing the usage of the tools that you've got, it is worth going back to kind of change management principles of, have we done enough training? Have we provided enough support? Have we provided enough communications? Do people have access to the resources that they need? That just, taking it back there rather than asking people directly and just assuming that people aren't necessarily getting this. I think one other thing that I thought was sort of an observation from the internal comms event specifically is that a lot of the use cases that have been aimed at internal communications have been about content creation, right? Using AI tools to create new content with a certain style, with a certain length, with a certain format. And on one hand, you've got that this is the primary use case that's being promoted to people in comms marketing, and on the other hand, saying, the internet is now full of AI generated slop, and that, you've got to be careful about, authenticity. So you're kind of creating this sort of weird dynamic where the main use case that people are being told to use is content creation. And yet, if you're using it for content creation, that might be bad.
Okay, can I use it or not? No? Yeah. Yes. Good point. And like you also mentioned that well, one of the ideas of joining this event was like to talk about the agent that we have in Fresh for Copilot. So, and that agent is focused on news, announcements, engaged content. What was the type of feedback that you got regarding that agent?
Yeah, it's a good question. And again, kind of back to those two groups, really, that the people that are using everyday AI every day and are kind of embedded in the world of agents and tools like Copilot, ChatGPT, get why we would be spending time and energy creating these things. They're kind of winding time forward, thinking about what this model might look like in the future. I think the other group of people that are there that are trying to connect their frontline employees to their content, or trying to get people out of email, or have a lot of content information in sites that isn't all that well governed, they are the problems that those people are trying to tackle. They're not thinking about, how do I move this experience into Copilot, right? so far away from that being the next problem that they're tackling. So, I think it was really useful to be able to have something that articulates the potential future for these tools and services. But, it was a good reminder for me for how important the basics still are to most people.
All right, I got very similar type of feedback. I mean, in general, like on the observation of where people are at which level they are in terms of AI, noticing also that they have very basic requirements that need to be addressed before they can even think of using AI. For example, if you are coming like from on-premises, which is the reality for some organizations, and so AI is you want to use that, but you still like need to solve that aspect that you need to move applications from on-premises to the cloud. Then we like take advantage of Copilot or like maybe Fresh Mic, for example, right, in the context of Intranet and so on.
Yes, yeah. One of the questions that we were talking about on the panel that I attended was, what are the things that comms teams need to be focused on? And I was saying on that understanding where your technical debt is, right? Developing a good relationship with IT, understanding where they're going, where's the technical debt, what are the problems that are going to prevent you from being able to pivot and use AI and agents, not over investing in point solutions that are going to make an integration problem worse, not moving big chunks of your data off to some other software as a service platform, that really getting a good understanding of, if we wanted to use agents tomorrow, are we there? Do we have the systems and the governance in place to be able to get there? That bit of work becomes important for organizations.
Yes. Well, it can sound like very futuristic, like to think of AI in some cases. So if you are still like trying to solve the basics, and then also like the scenarios that you can use that for.
Yeah.
But this, as we mentioned, you cannot forget that. Like, you cannot forget that AI is also part of the game.
Yes. Yeah. So you were a completely different type of event this week. Yesterday, in fact, Jarbas, at the time of recording, the Microsoft AI Roadshow. Tell us a bit about what was it, where was it, who was there?
Yes. Well, the Microsoft AI Tour is a series of events from Microsoft where they aim like to promote all the capabilities that Microsoft has around AI. So that means all of Microsoft capabilities around AI. So that it's not just focusing on Microsoft 365 and Copilot. Of course, it's a big topic there. But Microsoft is active in so many areas when it comes like to AI in Azure, or Azure OpenAI, and then let's say a GitHub, have GitHub Copilot as well, Fabric, and so on. So there are a lot of places where AI is available in the Microsoft portfolio, and that event is about that, right? So bring people close to all of these possibilities. You have, of course, sponsors, as we were there with Fresh, with Advania, our parent company, and also like Microsoft people directly on site to help answer questions around those. Let's say GitHub Copilot and Azure and Microsoft 365. Also like a big a focus also like on the Copilot enabled devices, promoting that as well. So as you see, like it's an event that covers everything about Microsoft, and that of course a lot of excitement from the audience. And that means that people attending that event have very different expectations and backgrounds. So in your case, so talking about the AI Horizons event, people are very focused on comms. In this case, you have like people from different audiences. But yes, definitely
Primarily a technical audience. Is that fair to say?
I saw like from yes, I think yes, but like then and then in that scenario, like from decision makers to developers, have like a very good mix of attendees there.
And what was you said that we were there with our parent company Advania, who had a pretty impressive looking stand talking about kind of AI services, custom development. There's a pretty broad range of things that Advania offer to a customer base, and Fresh was obviously one of those things because we're inside the company structure. What were the conversations that you were having with people on the stand? Themes, findings, similar to me or very different?
Yes, well, as you mentioned, but we were featured partner at that event, featured sponsor. So we had a big presence there. We were there with a big team, going from C-Level, like our CEO was there as well, and Hage, our group CEO, which was really nice, like to have there as well, have her there as well. So when I was approaching people and talking to them, so it was like first trying to understand. So what are requirements? And we saw like people looking for things around Power Platform, to doing custom development with AI, like Azure OpenAI in this case, and also like discussions around intranets. One thing that I noticed in terms of preparation and proof, so the more specific you can be with your messaging, the easier it is like for the audience to also like understand what are the steps that you provide, right? So because people are, they see like, it's of course it's an AI event, but what are the specific things that you can help them solve, right? So if it's Power Platform, so you find that out as you talk to them, but that requires kind of that this initial discussion for really like to find out the requirements. And I think it's good for both, isn't it? Like if you are specific as a vendor, and people also specific with their requirements, so you can have a good match.
Yeah,
And,
yeah, because AI is an incredibly broad topic, and even within, if you put the kind of Microsoft 365 constraint on AI, the number of places that it appears, the number of things, the amount of potential that you can have across all of the applications in the suite. This is a very broad topic covering a very broad range of things, people, roles.
it is. So, and then in terms of discussions that I had, especially like in this internet context, I noticed that people are interested in AI and they want to use that. But also, like I noticed, as you said, so people, they have very basic requirements still. Like, no, it's coming like from SharePoint out of the box, and they want to do more with AI now. They have like a large organization with 5,000 people. So how can we reach our employees properly? So with out of the box, that's not enough, and we want like a solution to help us solve that. Or the scenario that I mentioned before about on-premises, that was the reality of a client I was talking to. So like they have an internet on premises that has been the internet like for many years now. They want to use AI, they want to modernize things, but they need first like to go away from on-premises and then move like to cloud. And well, their goal is like to do that in SharePoint.
And I imagine going along to those events where knowing Microsoft, it'll be a very shiny event with lots of amazing looking presentations. That coming away from that event back to your role, the challenge that you've got there to get to a place where you could even think about using those AI tools, it must feel like a really overwhelming journey for people.
Yes. Maybe that serves also as a motivation to do that step towards, let's say, cloud, then finally adopt it. So that's my hope there. And yeah, we're looking forward like to continue that discussions and see like how we can help them, those clients.
Yes, yeah, and I think that there is a strong role for vendors to have in this space about helping to provide kind of practical advice and guidance, rather than just making this problem worse in a lot of cases by adding more technology, chucking in more services, building up a catalog of large language models and AI services that don't always talk to each other all that well. So, there is a role, given that this is a overwhelming and potentially confusing area, to make sure that, on one hand, vendors are being very clear and specific about the prerequisites, what's required, what they're introducing, and the potential legacy that may leave. But also for people to be, the kind of more clear and specific you are in your requirement, the more likely it is that you're going to find a good match for a vendor.
Yes, definitely. And I think this thing of adoption, because everyone keeps saying adoption and focusing on adoption and changing adoption. That's important. That's really important. It's like from those companies that are piloting Copilot to companies, well, maybe piloting Copilot maybe with 50, maybe with 1,000 licenses, depending on the size of the organization. And it's really important like to understand the use cases of the employees first. We like have rounds of discussions with the employees, understanding kind of what are the areas where you in your workflow, and where can AI support you with that. So I think understanding that first really like then help people properly adopt Copilot and of course AI in general. I think that's really important. Like it's not underestimate the value of changing and adoption work that happens there.
I worry sometimes that the pandemic created a false sense of how easy change management is. We went from a position where hardly anybody was using Teams is probably a silly thing to say, but less people were using Teams before the pandemic. pandemic hits, lockdown forced people to think about how they were going to connect and promote collaboration between their employees. So Teams became a really obvious piece of software to get people to use. There is hopefully, no similar catalyst for generative AI here. And getting back to those basic principles of change management, training, adoption, communications, that, as you say, that I think that becomes very, very important for driving successful initiatives.
Yes, but that's true, right? So all of a sudden, people had like to work from home, and you had that challenge to connect people. And Teams, it was easy. Like the Teams was already there available, and then it's a benefit of Microsoft 365 in general. We have so many applications. Team was there, that was easy then to adopt it. So and I think focusing that's the solution for Copilot. So there is a solution there already. So it's focusing on business change and adoption, and helping them, like the employees, understand like their scenarios and
it's a good job. It isn't the first thing that gets cut from a budget, though, right? On that note, let's bring this to a conclusion then. So, I think my main takeaway, I think, as a vendor from the experiences that I've had in the last couple of weeks is we need to do a really good job of explaining and positioning why things like agents are going to be important, useful, valuable to everybody in the organization, rather than just creating messaging that's going to land with somebody in IT or an early adopter. Making sure that this has value up and down the organization at all levels and ranges and ability, rather than just continuing to throw more technology onto the pile.
Yeah.
And what about you? What's your main takeaway?
I think, look, you need to, people are focused, they're not focused, but they still have like the basic challenge to solve.
Yeah.
And that's an area that we as a vendor cannot forget. Right. So we need to be providing solutions. Of course, AI is exciting, and we want to do things with the technology. We want like to enable scenarios within the product. That is rewarding also, and nice when you have that happen. Now you need also like to, like the things that we have done with newsletter and editor calendar, is bring kind of those simple elements within the product and helping people like solve those basic scenarios first. So then they can also like address the AI elements, and not just kind of those newsletters and editor calendar, but also things like content management, right? So helping them like solve the foundation first, then like successfully adopt AI.
Walking before running.
Yes. Very good.
Oliver, well, let's leave it there for today. Good to see you. Enjoy London.
Thank you, David. Talk to you again. Cheers.
Bye-bye.